This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan in New York City. Rockefeller Center, Newsstand Studios, joined as usual with John behind me. John Nahul, how you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Everything good?
Yeah, peachy.
Really?
Yep, going great.
It doesn't sound like it. I don't feel it.
I mean, it's, I don't know, it's my Monday, so just easing into the week, I guess.
Are you one of those guys that's kept down by the weather? You don't like bad weather?
I don't really care.
Oh, good,
That's
good.
fine.
So
Yeah.
that's why Nastasia can tolerate working with you, because she hates people that care about the weather?
Oh, I guess.
What do you, Nastasia the Hammer Lopez, you're there in California, right?
Yep,
Yeah, don't you hate people that change their life based on how the weather is?
I do. Yes, I hate it.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, oh, you can have a good time now because the weather's good? Weak, right? Weak.
So weak.
Yeah, especially in New York City where we're not about the weather. What are you going to do? I'm going to go surfing here. The hell? Got Jackie Molecule's not with us today, unfortunately. Where is Jack? Is he doing something fun at least, Nastasia, or is he laid up in bed somewhere?
He's at South by Southwest.
Okay, listen, I have to say something. We'll get into it. We'll come back. We got Joe Hazen rocking the panels. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And our special guest, Homer Murray, restaurateur and chef, Brooklyn and Manhattan, again, extraordinaire of 21 Greenpoint, formerly of Hombre Taco here in Rockefeller Center, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and the newer 21 Greenpoint here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
A lot of mutual friends, but we've never met.
I know. It's nice to make your acquaintance.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're listening live on the Patreon, call in to 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. Now listen, have any of you been to South by Southwest, or South by as they call it?
No, I think I missed that boat 20-something years ago, right?
You know what? That's a boat that you are... Okay, listen, I know everybody loves it. Everyone's like, oh, you love it, right? I'm like, nah.
No, it sounds terrible. I mean, yeah.
You know what, Nastasia, you'd probably like it because, like, you can go see all those bands and stuff, but, like, in terms of eating, it's just one big line.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one giant line. I hate lines.
Yeah, I hear you. My dad likes to go. He goes, but he gets to cut the line, so it's not fair.
That's not fair. Like, that's why, I don't mind going to some events if I know that I can just be like, come on. Like, if I know the people who are, like, running, I'm like, come on. I mean, like, I feel bad cutting, but on the other hand, I hate lines.
I just hate, I don't like events that descend upon a city, an otherwise peaceful town. You know what I mean? If I lived in Austin, I would dread that time of the year more than anything.
I think that I have some friends of mine live in Austin, and I think that they actually like it, kind of. Because they can go home.
The excitement they get.
They can go home. They don't have to stay in an Airbnb.
Right.
And, if they want to go home and eat something that they bought at a supermarket, they don't have to wait an hour and a half for, like, half of a breakfast burrito. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
the breakfast burrito, though.
Well, I don't know if you know this. Austin invented the breakfast burrito.
Yeah, I heard about that. They invented a lot of things that I thought had been around for a long time.
I like Austin. Austin. Hey, Stas, did you ever go when we were doing the Austin crap? Did you go with us?
No, I didn't go with you.
All right.
We have a mean one in Brooklyn for brunch. If you ever need a breakfast burrito.
Oh yeah.
Before.
So what makes a good breakfast burrito for you?
We have great tortillas.
Yeah.
Nice flour tortillas that a friend of mine makes, and it's just simple. There's nothing crazy about it.
Oh, is it? There's one guy. What's his name? The guy who makes the good flour tortillas here.
I think so. No, he is the chef. His name's Nicky Gorgeous. He's the chef of a place called SFBK, which is in Williamsburg. And he's from Arizona, so he's sort of passionate about it. And that's the building block to any good burrito, right?
Yeah. Does he use the Hayden Mills?
I'm not sure about his
Sonora?
process.
Yeah,
but I know
that flour.
Yeah.
is like it's like super expensive. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
look, it's expensive as flour goes.
Yeah.
It's not expensive compared to steak.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's very expensive compared to flour, and it's milled by. Oh my God, her name's it went out of my head, but she has a book on milling, and she uses primarily white Sonoran wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And when you add milk to, add water to white Sonoran wheat to make a dough, it almost smells like cereal milk.
Yeah.
It's got this amazing kind of aroma,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got it's just a perfect texture for flour tortillas with a little bit of lard up in that piece.
Right.
And it's
Doesn't take much.
No.
Yeah.
No, lard, water, salt.
There you go.
Flour,
Yeah.
winning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it took me many years to appreciate a good flour tortilla because the ones, I was like, I'd been exposed to really good corn tortillas, but I'd never really been exposed to excellent flour tortillas.
Same.
Although, you know what? Like, you've been in New York a long, long time.
Born
Do you
here.
remember that place Fresco?
Yes, absolutely.
Those were not terrible.
No. Yeah. Gosh, I hadn't heard that. in a
Really
while.
good flour tortillas at Yellow Rose.
Yeah,
Yeah?
Yellow Rose is a
Yeah,
great
really
version.
delicious.
And they just opened this little place next to Yellow Rose, a Taco Bell. Looks
Yeah?
great. Yeah, I gotta try that. Charming.
Artisanal taco.
yeah,
though.
yeah. It might be a cantina.
Yeah. Do they actually have something called Taco Bell Cantina?
They do.
Yes.
I've never been to one, but they sell booze.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in New York.
There are a few in New York.
I'm
Yes.
36 and 6.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Like booze. They have a full license.
I have probably a frozen margarita or something along those lines.
Yeah,
But yeah, liquor.
Yeah. You know what? I've just been working on frozen margaritas recently. I've been
Is that
working
right?
on frozen drinks. Yeah.
I'm trying to get my frozen drink program up. So
Yeah?
I might need your help.
Well, what's been your issues with it?
I don't have one.
Look, the issue with it, I think, is that like the frozen machines that most people are using, like it's a trick. Look, people love the frozen drink machines because pull and pay, money, right?
But they don't get cold enough, right?
Well, in general, people are doing really, really high sugar levels, like 12, 13%, 14%, and low alcohol levels. And they're getting very long, it takes a long time for it to melt because it doesn't have a lot of alcohol. Whereas like a lot of my old recipes were like, 13, 14% alcohol, and they come out when they're really cold. They come out like a perfect slush, but they melt.
Right.
And I drink them so quickly, it doesn't matter, but like they end up like kind of slushing out. So like I would have low sugar, high alcohol. So I've been working on trying to do kind of a middle of the road situation where, you're still over 10%, like just over 10% at or just over 10% alcohol. So the backbone's still there, and just knock the sugar down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you get a good melt rate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have you over.
Yeah.
Talk about it a little more.
Definitely will. Like, the trick is also like, it's like what size machine? Like,
Yeah.
I think the mistake people made, I'll never forget. I had done a bunch of stuff for Tales of the Cocktail with frozen machines. I was using El Meco machines, which is a machine, but they rented some like, crappy little miniature air-cooled daiquiri machines. So for anyone who cares about refrigeration, like the question is it going to be, first of all, how much power are you going to put into it? And secondly, is it air-cooled or water-cooled, right? And air-cooled machines, there's only so much power you can get out of them. But, you're like, no one can afford in a restaurant to add a frozen drink program. You're like, I got to put in a freaking 220 line. I got to water cool that sucker. Yeah. And where am I going to put it? It has to be countertop. So everyone ends up usually with a 120 air cooled machine. And there's limits, hard limits to what a 120 air cooled machine can do. Mm-hmm. And I think the other mistake then people make is that because I had to run this, we all did this event. None of us had ever done frozen drinks before. This years ago in New Orleans, hot as hell. New Orleans in July. They rent them all from some Mardi Gras garbage company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're good people. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Sure. Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. Might not be, though.
Human trash cans.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
more
You know what I
likely.
mean? Yeah. Anywho, so we get all these machines, and then, we all dump our batches in, and they all freeze down. All of us, like 30 people. And then as soon as we start drawing and putting back in, they all water out. And so, like, that's when I learned, gotta keep your batch frozen. Got to keep your batch frozen. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have something right next to your machine to keep your batch pre-frozen, you're toast.
Yeah.
You're absolutely toast. Especially because, if you're busy, you pull 5 of them, so, give me 5.
Yeah.
Then you dump 5 drinks in. You say, well, we've got 20 minutes for the next one, folks.
Right. You see a lot of that.
Yeah. It's easily rectified by just having like a cheap
drop freezer thing. And just,
even like we used to have, at existing conditions, we had a freaking what's it called one from PC Richards, like a little like
like a dorm room kind of situation.
For freezer only, like under counter,
right.
And then we didn't have a drink machine, but we could load frozen stuff out of it, or like extremely fancy ice or whatever crap we didn't want to go bad. You're sitting there watching dollar ice cubes go in the ice well, and you're like Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this is the part of the show where we discuss anything interesting that happened last week in the food or otherwise world. You guys got anything? Anyone do anything interesting in the food world?
I went to Yellow Rose, and it was delicious.
Oh, there you go.
Right. Yeah, it's right by my house.
Yeah,
I go pretty regularly. Yeah, it's nice.
I've never been. So give me the scoop.
He used to work for Brooks at Superiority, and then he's from Texas originally and decided to open up this place with his wife that does phenomenal Tex-Mex food. Really, really, really good. I think one of the chilies that they used to do at Superiority Burger, he used to make, and it was the recipe he got second place with at the Texas State Chili Cook-Off, and as a vegetarian submission too.
Wait. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was there a vegetarian category?
I don't know. I think he submitted it with all the meat dudes.
I don't believe that. Not even for a second.
Seems
Let me,
Just because
I don't know. It was really delicious.
Have you ever? I'm not
Let
saying
me
that.
fact
I'm not.
check.
I'm not saying that. Have you ever hung out with Texans
A little bit.
and you think that a non-beef based recipe in a beef based category?
Maybe you didn't tell him.
Yeah, maybe.
You
Dude.
know?
Maybe.
It's your chance.
You know what it was? You know what the main
Let me dive
ingredient
into
is?
this.
Psilocybin mushrooms.
There you go.
Right, or-
I'd have voted for him.
You know what I mean? It's like, so they're like, oh man, this beef. Ooh. You know what I mean? Yeah, because they're hallucinating into thinking there was beef in there because you can't. Is it got meat analog or is it a bean chili?
It was a bean chili.
See, great honor to bean chili.
Yeah.
Oh my God, here's a food story. Don't do. So over the summer, I went to Maine. I bought, you go to Maine, you buy weird beans.
Sure.
Right. So like, I'm at a roadside stand, way up near Acadia National Park. I go in, I'm like, where are the beans? And they're like, then like I go in and like all these little sacks of weird beans you never heard of. Lowe's Champion Early, and inside is Graham's Saturday beans, like one of those old like courier typewritten recipes. Try it. And it's weird because the standard bean recipe, you soak. Well, I'm not going to get into soak. I don't care. Anyway, but you soak it. Then you pre-cook it until, you do the thing and the beans are almost par done, and then you bake it for a while, right? But Graham, in her infinite wisdom, with this Lowe's Early, which specifically was this, because her other beans had different recipes in it, just cooks them straight for like 5 hours, no pre-cook.
Like that.
At 250. It's good. I was getting nervous because at like 4 hours, they were still kind of hard, and I was turning them over so the ones on top would go underneath, and they weren't breaking. It was really good. And, around 5 hours, they finally softened up. No acid, no gussying, just a small amount of molasses, mustard, salt, no freaking pepper, onion, no freaking garlic, piece of salt pork. I have vegetarians coming, so I left it out. I added some nutritional yeast to try to boost it a little bit because I didn't have the pork. And I added a little bit, even though salt pork's not smoked, I added a little bit of hickory smoked powder just to make up for the fact I didn't have the pork.
Gotcha.
Don't judge.
No, none.
Anyway, I have a technique I use now with beans where what I do is I cook them in excess liquid first, let them cool a little bit, add Beano, knock all the farts out of it, and then do my reduction cooking afterwards once it's been defarted. And then so I'm used to being like bean champion because I'm like, I can eat anything without like getting sick, but the bacteria in my gut are as strong as I am in terms of what they can tolerate. And so they'll just, they'll blow me apart.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah. Or like Nastasia is with what's it called? Jerusalem artichokes, where she likes to, she likes to expand her friends' bottom sides with gas. That's one of your favorite tricks, right, Stas? No, she's not.
In my 20s.
That was not even your 20s. This was like 6 years ago. Yeah. Anyway, so I followed Graham's recipe to the T, and I ate it like I had defarted it. And I have not been in so much pain from a recipe. I was like, I will never cook beans like that again without doing the defart technique, or just eat fewer. Who wants to eat fewer?
Yeah, that's not a compromise. That's not.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Because I'd made like the shakshuka for everyone else, but they were going so hard on the shakshuka that there was almost none left. I eat it for dinner. Call me whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Crap on you. I can eat it for dinner. It's not only for breakfast, John.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? No.
Shakshuka's welcome any time of the day.
Absolutely.
Right?
Certainly.
Right?
Yes.
And, yeah.
Why are you turning around and yelling at me?
Because I can feel your eyes. Anyway.
He's looking right through you.
Yeah. Anyway. So like I ate mostly beans and also like, I don't know, another jerky move. I poach the eggs. I don't put the eggs into the shakshuka to cook them.
Oh, really?
No, because what the hell?
Yeah.
It makes it harder to save it if you have more left over at home. I'm not talking about it like you're serving it to somebody, but like when you're making like a 14-inch, I use like a 14-inch Volrath Centurion freaking big old thing, and I'm doing like, large format, comes out, the whole table is doing it. I don't know what people want, what they don't. So I just poach the eggs.
Sure.
So I'm just eating poached eggs and beans and bread. You know what I mean? Just poached eggs and beans and bread. Poached eggs and beans. And it's very bad.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. Very bad. Although, I don't know whether the Lowe's Champion Early Bean is a particularly tooty bean, though. I don't know, because I've never had it before.
How do we track this lady down, ask her some questions.
I guarantee, based on the font, that Graham is dead.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, no one uses that
there's
font.
probably living relatives up there.
Yeah, if I ever go back to Acadia,
Right.
I was going to like,
Top of the list.
Blam!
I got some questions and I want them answered.
man, she just bust through the door, start screaming at this lady behind it. She's like, I don't know.
Waving this typed recipe over your head.
The
Yeah.
hell is this? All right. So let's go back to Stas. Did you say you had anything or no? My mind is totally erased today. I don't know.
Nothing I want to share. No.
Oh,
Mhm.
that means that's the most interesting.
Keep digging there. Yeah.
That means it's the most interesting stuff. Although I will say this, for people who are looking for a centrifuge, we're getting ready to have announcement on that, right, Stas?
Oh.
Yeah.
Like announcement within a month. What do you say?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's get on to stuff. Let's get on to talk stuff. You want to promote the Patreon there, John? Do a little business?
Patreon.com/cooking issues. Join. There are a couple different membership levels, and you get awesome things at each membership level, including access to the community Discord, discounts from Books at Kitchen Arts and Letters with guest authors that we have on. I believe Katie Parla's is discounted. Yeah, just really a whole bunch of great things. Prioritize questions, all that kind of good stuff. So become a member. It's a good time for all.
Right. Okay.
I DM'd Katie Parla. It's my first DM ever.
Really?
I've never like slid into anyone's DMs, but I listened to the show and I enjoyed it so much. I wanted to say, hey, I'm going on this show. What do I talk about? And I would say, congratulations. She sounded great. I had several people around me helping me craft it, so I hope it didn't come off too weird. It wasn't a lecherous DM. It was a complimentary one.
Well, I mean, I don't know. She lives mostly in Italy, so it might be okay. Right?
Great. Yeah, why not? It's a reason to get over there.
So did she respond?
Not yet. She's on a book tour. I'm sure she's very busy.
Oh, yeah, she is. She's in some other place now. I saw on her Instagram, some other place. All right, so let's talk about opening a restaurant in New York City in a place. So you had Hombre Taco, and let's talk about why that place closed.
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I may not have gotten the full story, but we opened 2020, I would say, September, sort of right in the middle of all the guts of it, of the pandemic. And it was sort of bleak and dark down here. I don't know if you were in the building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what it was like. And we struggled through, but we really were sort of getting our footing and realizing what it could be, and then an idea was proposed that it would be sort of reimagined as a second location. I've had my place 21 Greenpoint in Brooklyn for a decade now, and the idea,
Which is a good milestone.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it feels nice. Yeah, I was talking about it the other day, and it sort of hit me that we had sort of contributed to shaping the neighborhood in the way that it is now, and that was a nice feeling. And we're very fortunate out there to have some great regulars and some great neighborhood people that have really cauterized us there.
Well, Greenpoint got so cool that like people who live in Greenpoint are like, I don't really leave Greenpoint anymore.
I know it's a real problem. It was for me. I spent a decade there as well, and just recently left. And it does feel like a very small, very tight knit community. It is separate because of the G train specifically. Right. It is its own little spot up there, so people don't leave as often as they do, and there's less. It's a wonderful neighborhood full of incredible people.
To go back to my other question. So first of all, is all the industry gone out of Greenpoint? Because I remember like in the 90s, it was like half little old ladies on their stoops talking to each other, and then somebody grinding. Because I had a job as a metal worker in Greenpoint in the 90s, and it was like either like industrial filth or little old ladies having like, pastries and coffee. Yeah.
The ladies are still there. Some of the filth is, thankfully. A lot of the stuff that was by the water has been forced out of there and now is very tall glass buildings full of people I don't know. But the further you get from the water, the more industrial there's still a lot of, film and movie production takes place over there. And
they still have all those weird places like where Sidney Lumet was shooting and stuff. Yeah,
all that stuff is still there, which is neat. And that'll take a little while to ruin, but they'll find a way.
They'll find a way to ruin it.
Certainly.
Yeah. All right. So what I heard was that they obliterated the space that was Hombre Taco, and it no longer exists.
That is true. That is true. There was a reimagining of what the concourse level of 30 Rock would be. And that involves bringing in some black iron and some ventilation systems and expanding the scope of what people were able to do. And Hombre Taco, before it was a Bibigo, sort of a dumpling place, and before that was a candle store and I think a video game shop. So it was never a place for a restaurant to be, and now it is. We're in the final stages of getting our gas turned on.
How long has that taken?
It's taken a while. There's been some red tape with the FDNY and Con Ed and stuff. No fault of anybody, but it's just bureaucratic silliness, which is a lot of T's to cross. And we're working in a cathedral, right? A landmark building where changing a light bulb requires several emails and stuff. So things go slow.
Ever since the explosion, remember the explosion downtown in what year was that? It's like 2014, 2015, there was a gas explosion on 2nd.
No, I guess not.
Blew up a whole building from a restaurant. They were doing illegal work in the restaurant. 2 people were killed in the restaurant, leveled the entire building on the corner, right next to...
by the Palm Frites on
7th.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I remember that. I wasn't aware that was what caused it.
Yeah. Gas explosion. And there had recently, right before then, been a gas explosion in Harlem on like 125th Street it was either a commercial building or some sort of like a older schoolish kind of building. Mm-hmm. And those 2 gas explosions happened kind of very close to each other. And ever since then, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, we're 8 million of us stacked up in this little freaking place. You know what I mean? But like gas work is just a nightmare.
Yeah, there's a lot of new regulations that I didn't know about.
Well, what do you think about this whole in the future going non-gas though?
Well, I mean, as long as the radical left tries to take our gas away, we'll always have something to fight for. Yeah. But I like the idea of it. Sure, if it can be. If the same amount of power and production can take place in a smaller area that doesn't require ventilation and is possibly a nicer work environment, then great. More power to it. I haven't worked with a ton of it. I have a bunch of induction burners and stuff, but to see it operating on a full-scale level would be interesting. Yeah.
So you're not going to just burn a bunch of gas in a pickup truck going down the highway?
No, I do that at home. That's a personal choice. I don't bring that into the work arena.
Yeah, exactly. So... I mean, I just hate how long things take. I think I've said this many times. I don't think the average person who hasn't tried to have a small business understands how anti-small business, like everything seems to be. Like we talk a lot about, as a culture, about how much we like small business, and it's just not.
Yeah, it's really challenging, and a lot of the. A lot of the things that you fall into, whether it's penalties or regulations or whatever, especially in a place, I'll use myself as an example, in a building like this where, I joke a lot about, Ben and Jerry don't come down and inspect the stuff as often as I'm here inspecting stuff. And the things that are asked of a small business are a lot to take. The financial risk and the financial investment is profound, and little things that maybe wouldn't register so much on a larger scale can be deeply effective to a small business. It does feel in a way that the deck is stacked. It feels that way. I'm sure it's not, and I know that those safeguards are there for a reason, and they're there to be enforceable and to be profound against anyone of any size. But if the same force is applied to a large matter as a small one, and the small one does get obliterated, and that feels like a hard hill to climb sometimes. Right.
So like when it takes 6 months to get the gas installed, you may not be burning gas, but you are burning money.
Yeah, I'm employing people. They're standing there, and looking for stuff to do. It's hard.
It's awesome. But
it's my job.
So on 21 Greenpoint, I read you were. What was the name of the restaurant you worked at right before that was right there?
River Sticks. When we opened, that's what it was called.
Okay, so what's that like? You just take over, and then you change it. Like, how does that work?
Well, River Sticks, I was a partner of. I was sort of. I went into it with 2 partners, and I was sort of the head, cook. I was the guy who was sort of running the day-to-day kitchen operations, and that's where I was very content to stay for a long time, but we had some issues with partners, as is often the case, and they both left, and then I was sort of sitting there, and I was sort of asked to take this on, maybe a little before I had anticipated that, and you know, I was intimidated and a little worried because I don't have, I planned to sort of sit at River Styx and learn the business, right? But it was thrust upon me, and then I, decided to change the name to a little fix up on some stuff that was broken and stay, and we've turned it into something that we're all really proud of. It's a great thing. It all came too fast, but it's always best to be sort of asked to do something when you're kind of not ready to, just before you're good enough, because it inspires you to try,
Yeah, and also, I guess, people always second guess, get bent when you say things like this, but like you need to be at a place in your life where you kind of give yourself the permission to try things out.
Yeah.
And like, most of the people I know who were successful in restaurant stuff, like Dave Chang will say this about Som or any of these other places, that when you kind of have the permission to mess around and do things and put things right, it can be kind of more satisfying. You can build something, better, where it's harder, it's a lot harder and costs a lot more to try to open something that's a specific way from the get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, having those constraints is a lot, especially when you feel obliged to them and you can't, change, because it's a constantly, changing business. You have to, once I really started trusting, my gut and the stuff that I wanted to serve and the environment that I wanted to have for people, that's when I started enjoying my job and doing a better job at it,
So back to hombre taco, and not you said a reference to, not a bad hombre reference.
No, although I am, but no, hombre is what my uncles used to call me when I was a kid.
Wait, oh yeah?
Yeah, hombre. Hey, hombre, get over here, give your uncle a beer.
Even when you were like not really an hombre yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on getting small children to hand, like Mad Men style, handing alcohol to adults? Pro, anti?
Very pro. I mean, they're the only ones that can nestle, a brandy glass just so and bring it to the appropriate temperature.
Wow.
Sometimes that stuff is very thin and delicate. You need a soft hand.
Can I tell you something horrifying?
Please.
In the 70s, which I remember, I was young, but I remember people still used to heat brandy.
Yeah.
And people would have little, like...
I'm not kidding. My uncle would have me warm it in my hands for him.
Hell, you want it hot?
That's what he said to do.
I know, but where did this come from? And like, thank God it died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you want
your...
like, you bring a snifter of hot brandy up to your nose. You're like, what? Why?
Mm-hmm. Well, to greater appreciate the perfume, certainly, right? I've seen a little tea candle and like a little setup where you can balance your glass
the 70s,
over it.
man.
Yeah, it's a happier time.
They don't still have that anymore, right?
Well, you have to make your own, but it's out there,
I don't know. To me, that's one of those things from the 70s that I'm like, glad it's gone.
Sure.
You know what I do miss though with candles? Christmas time, they used to have these things with candles in it, and then like a little fan above it, and the candles would make the fan go, and there'd be these little metal angels that go ting 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 ting.
Yeah, I
ting,
remember
ting.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
So let's bring those back.
It's a good use of a candle.
Yeah.
Speaking of candle, my brother-in-law. So I did something. My brother-in-law Wiley is opening his pizza place. Stretch. Anti-candle. He's anti-candle.
Is that right?
Yeah. What do you?
I'm very pro candle. I enjoy the light that it emits.
You know why? Because it looks better.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Yeah. Well, so like,
what is Wiley like? LED lights or something?
No, look. Like, I'm like, I had a conversation with him, and I'm talking out of school, whatever. He's my brother-in-law, whatever.
I know Wiley.
But he's like, I don't know, he just doesn't like them because they are a hassle. They suck. You have to keep buying them.
What part? They're not that
I mean,
bad.
emptying them out of the thing.
Sure, but it's something for the servers to do.
Yes, they at the beginning, you just hired this person. No one told them to put water into the tea light thing. And they can't get the freaking candle out.
Learning opportunity.
It's a learning opportunity with a butter knife and a bunch of people screaming at you. But you know what I mean? It's like whatever. But ever since I read this book, what was it called? Disenchanted Night by somebody. Last name, you ready for it? Shivelbush.
Nice.
Yeah, Shivelbush. Independent scholar named Shivelbush.
Not independent for long.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like 90 now. Anyway, he's still alive. Anyway, he wrote this book And he was like, yo, electric light is ugly on people's faces. He's like,
Really?
Yeah, he's like, gaslight was awesome. But no one can have that now. But candle, it's like the movement, it makes everyone look like maybe like 30% sexier.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel that one of the main goals.
Why does Wiley hate that so much?
I don't know. I don't think he thinks about it because he's thinking kitchen. Anyway,
Sure.
so like
I don't recommend them in the kitchen necessarily.
yeah, no, terrible. Like, imagine, ow! You're slicing to a
You look
candle.
great while you do it.
Oh, fantastic! The blood like coming off of your face. That little, but like yeah. I mean, like people just look a lot better. And I think if someone's going out. Right, I mean, whatever, a business meeting, whatever. But like a lot of people who are going out to have a good time. And if you want them to have a good time and an even better time when they leave and go back home or wherever they're going to go, you want them to look good.
Agreed.
I always I want the people to look good when they're here.
Absolutely.
Your place looking good is one thing, but the guests should feel like they look great.
There's no place without the guests, right?
Yeah.
We're there to facilitate a nice time. That's
like,
my understanding.
This is why at the bar, the way that you really are like if you turn the lights on to get people out, people are like, oh.
That's a harsh reality. Save that for the unflinching sun in the morning.
Yeah.
Let us live in this fantasy for another hour or so.
I don't know. I'm sure he'll eventually get some candles because candles are nice.
Gosh, I hope so.
I like candles.
I do too. I think they're great. I feel like he would too. Maybe he's got to find the right candle.
Yeah.
He's not a votive guy. He needs something made out of whale blubber or something that he can
Oh, my God. Or like one of these... who is it that was Nick? Nick was going to do the olive oil candles where he can dip their.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think Wiley would enjoy you dipping the crust into a candle.
I don't think he'd appreciate it. Maybe he made one out of garlic butter or something.
Get this. So Wiley because it's Wiley made his own magic shell.
Naturally, yeah. It's just coconut oil, right?
Yeah. Peanut butter magic shell.
Right.
Of course you made a magic shell. You know what I mean?
him.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, all right. So back to Hombre Taco.
Yeah, the place that's been closed for a year.
Yeah. But we talk about this. So we went down after the show because right when we went here, it was going like right when we started, and that's when Joe was like, "Hey, Homer was like, no, I don't know him personally. I know him." So we went down and talk about the broccoli versus the avocado.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, we make a thing called brockamole here in Brooklyn, and it started as a reaction to. Not using avocados or trying not to use avocados because how much water they require and the states which grow them have to import water from other places and the people who harvest them are not treated particularly well and myriad sort of social moral issues as to not using avocado. I've recently found a guy, avocado guy, who makes an incredible product and they're sourced from people that you can get behind.
But that's not AAA avocado on my neighborhood on the. You know
I don't
that story?
believe so. I don't know.
It's
Where's
not,
that?
Yeah, we've been over this. Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
spelled the same in Dave's neighborhood. It's a storefront.
Oh, all right, great.
Not
well,
avocado
this guy's
guy.
great, and you can get him at your house as well and stuff like
Oh,
that.
really?
But anyway, it's guacamole is just guacamole without the avocado. All the same flavorings, all the same stuff. Tastes similar. Looks the same. It's cheap too, so broccoli compared to avocado, so I can give it away. You don't have to charge extra for brock and stuff like that.
Do you do the overcooked broccoli, or do you?
Overcook it, blanch it essentially, but boil it and then combine it with all the stuff.
Who is it that used to love the overcooked broccoli? Was it Marcella Hazan?
Italian people in general, right?
Hey, this is crazy. I printed out the wrong question list. I printed out a question list from like 2 weeks ago.
Well, I like this then.
Yeah,
I feel
awesome.
good.
All right.
Could it be? I don't know much about Gage and Toller, but I can make a baked Alaska if we have to.
Can you?
No,
Oh.
but I can make one. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, all right. I think some of the questions I didn't get to, so we're still there. All right. This one, actually, I thought was interesting. Quinn, this is the one that I think you wanted to go into anyway. AXBBYCZD0, which is a difficult username to...
No underscores or anything?
Yeah.
Because you can't pronounce it like Axbiwizidzo.
Is that Elon Musk kid?
No. What was his name again?
I don't recall.
It's like... But it's a normal name.
I find him very uncharming these days. So.
Oh, the
I haven't
Muskmelon?
kept
I'm still going to get
abreast
that dang
of his
Cybertruck,
goings-on.
though. I'm still going to get that Cybertruck. If they
Well,
ever
you can't
build
even
it.
throw a cannonball through it. So, I mean, why bother?
Yo, listen, I have to say, when he did that, and when Fritz put that like, when he broke the the window. I was like, of course the window broke.
Sure, it seems you shouldn't do that to car windows.
But the dummy move, the hilarious dummy move was, he's like, oh, go try it on the other window. I'm like, no, Fritz, don't, man. But like, if you did that to my Subaru,
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
Projectile steel balls work.
Yeah. No, Fritz. Do you think he got fired or murdered?
Yeah, I guess probably. Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been a bit more of a public crucifixion these days, but he maybe quietly was asked to leave.
Like, all right. So, question is, and we were talking about this actually before we went on the air. Given the fractured state of media in general, which is that's kind of loaded.
A lot.
It's a lot right there to, as they say these days, unpack. Right? Razor thin margins and the profitability of restaurants, environmental impacts and sustainability, and ethical trade. Do we have any predictions as to where dining and or fine dining is headed next?
Wow,
It is a tough. Like now you have Red Zeppi saying that he's done with it, right? In a couple of years after he.
Yeah, but like, come on, man. He's the guy, right? He's the it can't be done. Fine dining cannot be done anymore on the level that he wants, right? Well, wasn't it 20 years ago you couldn't forage for things in Copenhagen and complete a restaurant menu with just stuff that you found on your walk? He found a way to do that, right? If he's the greatest in the world, right, and he's given us
which I don't believe
much,
anyway.
Nobody does, but if he's the best, if that's the top, right, well, then maybe he could find a way. Maybe all the leaders in this world, instead of saying, "Oh, it can't be done," I'm just gonna open a fast casual place and fry chicken instead. It's like, well, how about you figure it out, man? Are you passionate about what you love, or are you just here for the awards? Wow, that came out of nowhere.
Wow.
I've been drinking.
Wow.
But you know what I mean? It's like, come on, we're here to effing work. Let's do it. Instead of like, and the guy knows more than I'll ever even begin to know, and has contributed more to the culinary world than I do by a long shot. But it's like I don't get to walk away. A lot of people don't get to just throw their hands up and walk away.
Right. So you're saying like, it is a definite like. He can leave on top if he wants to.
And that feels great. And mazel tov. Good, go out on top. He's a cool guy. I got nothing but wonderful things to say about him, except for that stepping away. Because that opens the door for so many other people who are not as deserving to do it as well. You know what I mean? If your leaders let you down, then who are you supposed to follow? Because I'm supposed to follow him, right? He's the top.
Stas, you remember what we used to say when someone was chasing something we didn't think they were going to get it in the food world?
Yeah, what did you come up with?
Wake up and smell the Red Zeppi.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Because there can't be that many. First of all, there's only, and this is what I think is changing. So I think part of this is we were talking also about like Pete Wells changing the stars rating here at the New York Times and the way media in general is changing, right? So, in the heyday of, when Noma and before that, whoever was the fine dining, blah, blah, blah of the world at the time, there's only a certain amount of oxygen in that space, right? So no matter how good any person is, it's actually hard to get to be the person that receives all the oxygen. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think the issue is it's so expensive to do that kind of work now that unless you have a chance of absorbing all the attention, it's almost like, well, then how can you even do that anymore? Is that part of the argument?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Then the question is to what end? And that has to be self-assigned, right? Don't you have to answer that? Like, how much do you want this? Does it matter to you that much?
That you get that kind of accolade.
Right. Or would you do it without it?
Well, I mean, so Pete Wells, whom I like, by the way, for those of you that don't know or aren't in the United States, Pete Wells is the food reviewer for the New York Times, which since, for at least 50 years, probably more, but since I've been alive and could look at words, was the, premier restaurant reviewing venue in New York. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And therefore, regardless of what you think of us as a city, therefore one of the most important in the country, right? And so, the star system, and Pete Wells is funny and a very good writer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so, he's switched recently the star system whereby I'm just saying this for people, who aren't part of the New York scene, where like, for instance, like a food truck can get 3 stars, right? Now, I think the star system started changing its meaning back when, my business partner at the time, friend Dave Chang, got 3 stars for Sam, because that was not what a 3-star restaurant had been, because it didn't have the right kind of bathroom, it didn't have the right kind of table service, didn't have the right kind of chairs. So it started changing. But like, I don't really understand a world in which, in other words, like, I don't think we've figured out what the meaning is. Like, we all as a community want to give more oxygen to people who aren't just like the Rene Redzepis and this kind of fine dining thing. But on the other hand, isn't there still a place for that kind of work, that kind of control, that kind of like desire to achieve a certain level of perfection? And so I don't really know where this is shaking
agree.
down.
I remember when I was a young man in the early 2000s, I worked at a place that made fantastic food, and we worked really hard, and it was a great, great place to go. And we would always talk about the idea of getting a great 2-star review, because those stars sort of were sacred, and it did mean a certain level of dining, but it meant a certain expectation as well. And you could get a great review and still get 2 stars. And that, I thought, was a really genuine and sort of fair way of treating it. But then, like, Katz's got 2 stars, and so did Per Se, and you go like, well, this can't be right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it became about you had to get 4. 4 was the pinnacle. For us, 4 was never a goal. Can't get 4 stars. Le Cirque has 4 stars. You know what I mean? It was about the review, and if the reviewer understood the food that we're talking about, Pete Wells in this instance. And I think that tiered system is helpful, and I think it's interesting, and it's kind of fun to have a 4-star restaurant like Le Bernardin. Like, that's a different place than even a great restaurant with amazing food and wonderful service and drinks and whatever. So I think if we could return to the intent of the reviewer and their emotions that they shared with the place they were going to, and then keeping them in their little box was sort of nice in a way, because you were safe and defined in your box, and it wasn't about beating other things. It wasn't about getting 4 stars. It was about getting the best 2-star you could.
Yeah, and also here's another thing, because I listened to the New York Times podcast where Pete was.
The Daily,
where he was kind of defending this choice, and he said something at the beginning of the podcast that I thought was really interesting and telling. He's like, "There's only a certain number of fine dining restaurants in New York at any one time, and you can know what they all are." I'm like, exactly, but I can't go to them.
Right.
You can, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And so like the point is that like that is a beat, right?
Once New York Times restaurant review, you know what I mean? He can write other reviews, but when he puts on that hat, the critic for the New York Times, there is a lineage and an expectation that people have. I think it's okay to have that be a sort of rarefied air. There used to be that great 25 and under column.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the most exciting column of the week.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like that is a different beat.
Yes.
And I think it should just be a different thing.
Totally agree.
Or like the other thing is like once it's open to all 20,000 restaurants or whatever we have now in you can't know them.
Right.
You can't know them.
Right.
How do I know that the truck that you reviewed in the South Bronx is even in the top 10 of that kind of truck?
Yeah.
Because there's just you don't know them all.
They're probably they're probably clamoring. Everybody, there's so much more information.
Right.
There's so many blogs and there's so many whatever the hell's and there's so many experts out there that they feel obliged to write stuff that people will read and get and talk about. You know what I mean? So a 3-star review of a taco truck gets people talking.
Right. But I think it's weird is that like,
it's a bit. I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but on the Daily, the host accused him, and he deflected it well, of being performative.
Right.
And it does seem a bit that way, and that's okay because it is a stage, But there's I don't know.
Right, but then okay. So here's what happens. So in the podcast, this is the first time we've ever talked about a different podcast. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Here we go. So like
very meta.
They're together. He accuses Pete Wells of being. Doesn't accuse him. Says, "Is it performative?" Basically, throws it out there and being like, George Floyd happens. People don't want to just do like old white people crap anymore. Mm-hmm. You need to give oxygen to other people.
Totally
all
agree.
true, by the way.
Absolutely.
All fact.
Totally.
And then, he's like, but you're just being performative because you are the New York Times. And so you're saying, I'm going to give my first starred review after the pandemic because they stopped giving stars during the pandemic. My first star review is going to be to a pork truck, the Piranha, that literally it's a truck. It doesn't even have wheels. It's on blocks.
Right.
Right. And self-described by Pete Wells, you get coated in pork as he's hacking up the pork with a machete. And you can tell that he likes the experience because it specifically isn't the fine dining crap that he's had to do for years.
Totally understandable,
Which, by the
too.
way, everyone gets sick of.
Of course.
Everyone gets sick of fine dining, right? Which is why you should really maybe only do that job for a certain number of years.
That's another conversation. I think an important one.
So, so he's like, is that performative? But then he wins over the host by taking him to a Vietnamese restaurant in my neighborhood, a North Vietnamese restaurant. And the guy was like, yeah, that was a fantastic experience. And so now I kind of see what you mean. No, of course, the star review isn't supposed to be.
It's not like it's not a good restaurant. We all understand that the food here is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah,
so like
sure.
it's going to get a good review, even though literally they put the table that they sat on in the bike lane,
Yeah.
which by the way, I'm against. Please don't put
Get out of the
tables.
goddamn
Get a bike lane. If I run into you,
Yeah.
you're going to get hurt real bad.
Agreed.
Real bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like real bad. And then you're going to get mad at me.
Now these delivery guys are on motorcycles. They're all totally silent. They're 400-pound bicycle, whatever.
Okay. Listen. I'm of three minds on this, right? Like, so I understand they're not bikers. This is just their job.
Totally.
They're going to get in trouble, not their boss, if something happens. They have to buy the bikes.
Yep.
So I'm not going to, but it just makes me nervous. You ever see the one where they don't even get on the bike? They're standing on one side of the bike like the bike is a moped.
Well, they're dressed like they're going to be jumping off of some sort of thing. You know what I mean? They're dressed like they're for the X Games. They're ready to die out there.
Yeah. I don't know. But
Just
look,
to get
whatever.
Your Chinese.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. It's like
Go out more.
I don't know. Anyway, my point being that he was won over because he had a great time. But that's not what it's about. You know
Correct.
what I mean?
It's not about, yes, absolutely.
And you know what I think part of it is that, New York Times is the kind of paper of record for a bunch of things, right? So like you would look at them for art reviews, you would look at them for restaurant reviews of a certain kind, and then 2,500 for but we also back in the day, because there was no internet, you had people who were known for certain things. So like Time Out back in the day when Time Out came out, we would wait. All year they would wait to do their Cheap Eats issue.
Absolutely.
And they would have an editorial team and a whole group of people who all they did was go around to every neighborhood in the city all the time trying to find the best Cheap Eats. And that was well curated. They didn't get all this stuff, but then we were like, oh, and like that is a super important valid thing, which maybe now has been taken over by Yelp. So there's no curation on that. I don't know. I just don't think it's right to poison this star system that way.
I agree. I think it's okay to ask the paper of record, right, to have a little rarefied air about that stuff, and that's why various different kinds of journalism, like Time Out, like that Cheap Eats thing, that was something when I was a young person in college that meant I loved reading the New York Times reviews. I would never go to these restaurants, but that's what that was for. And the Cheap Eats thing was for me to have a little checklist and try to go to as many as I could that year.
And again, yes, memorable meals, awesome meals at those Cheap Eats places. Or
All those
you discover some of those places. Most of them, sadly, they don't last that long.
Sure.
Most restaurants don't last. But yeah, I mean, I remember I found my favorite, what was it called? Sweet and Tart, which was an amazing restaurant that everyone started going to.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was down near the Chase Bank on Canal Street in a basement.
Oh God, yeah.
And they had the really good, pork fried rice in the bamboo that would come, and they had a bunch of great stuff. You know what I mean? But
Right.
That's what that's for. Whatever. So we're in semi-agreement. John's been deadly silent on this. He has no opinions.
He's been furiously shaking his head. You can't see him.
What do you think, John, about Star System?
I don't know. Obviously it's a super flawed system, but I have always kind of placed a lot of credence in it. Not necessarily like it has great food, but it says a lot about the current cultural context of dining. I think even just looking at the eat or heat maps and all that stuff, which they claim to, it's not hierarchical or things like. I don't know. It's just. I don't know. This is what I wrote a lot of my master's thesis on, it was notions of taste and dictating taste. And it's just, I don't know. It's so freaking arbitrary, right? I don't know what I know what Pete Wells likes to eat, but I don't know. Do he and I enjoy eating the same things? I've read some reviews of places that he's been to that I haven't really had super pleasurable experiences at. So yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think there is definitely a need and a market for it. I just
Wait, for what?
for a star system,
Right.
that kind of review system. It is frustrating, to talk about the meat truck, and then, places like Le Bernardette's or, Teresi just also got the 3 stars, as did Kwame today.
I didn't read their review yet, but
Yeah.
congrats. And Don Lee, my former partner, is doing the beverage, working with, as is Karen Stanley,
Yep.
my old manager
Exactly,
over there. So I haven't been because I was supposed to go for friends and family, but something happened. I don't know what happened, but I haven't been yet. But yeah, congrats. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was interesting in the mid 2000s, right? You would sit around with groups of chefs like Sam Mason, and Wiley and Dave Chang, and they would all of which had worked at 4-star restaurants. Some had their own 3s and whatever, and they would be like, "Why do you have to buy into this star system? Why can't we just make food that we like?" And that was really Chang's point with Noodle Bar,
Sure,
right? And
sure.
then but then the stars ended up coming to him. He got the
Right.
3 stars at Sambar, which again I said is kind of weird. And he was out to kind of change. At least he said he was out to change kind of what we thought fine dining meant. In other words, fine dining could just be where the chef got to make the most delicious food in the most kind of fun atmosphere. And I guess that's true. But once you truly open it up to people who aren't him, don't
Yeah.
have that kind of pedigree, that's good, because I think in a way we all should know who's doing fun and interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I want the good information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the only reason a guy like me, I didn't go to culinary school. I never trained under some master. I never went to France, and I certainly haven't worked at the places that those people have. But I followed them.
Right.
They broke those barriers for young people, like me. And I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, certainly. But it seems so inaccessible that it took people that had already infiltrated it to open it up to others. And arguably too many people can do it now. And maybe I'm one of those people, but it was revolutionary at the time, and it felt that way. But it was all sort of rooted in this reverence for what came before. Maybe that's getting lost a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, like someone who I think, and to go outside of food for a minute, someone who I think is doing a really good job of saying we, only amplified a certain kind of voice before and we're going to do it differently is MoMA. Mm-hmm. Like, if you go to like the news shows at the MoMA and like the way that they're hanging, what do you think, John? You go to the MoMA, right? Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Like a really amazing.
New curatorial, groundbreaking stuff.
Fantastic.
It's so good, yeah.
But you consume art in a different way than you consume food, because you can, unless you're nuts, you can only go to one restaurant a night, and honestly, most of us can, go out maybe once a week, maybe.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe once a month, right? It depends on how much money you have, how much time you have, where you live. So I think that it's a lot harder to do it in our world than it is maybe to do it in the food world. To go back to AXBYCZD0's question, I am glad that changes are being made. I don't think we figured out the correct answer yet.
I think you're right. But, it's the kind of thing that you have to just keep asking questions around. So we're sort of all in agreement. We're circling around the final diagnosis, but we'll get there. Or somebody will. Gosh.
No, somebody.
Somebody smarter than us.
All right. Let me see. I don't have today's question, so I don't know. Quint. Oh, I'll give one that I have that was a couple weeks ago that I'm going to answer. Ready? You like mustard seeds?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Colicchio taught me how to pickle them, right?
Come on, really?
No, not really, but he did, and so now everybody has
This
to.
is a pickle mustard question.
Well, duh.
Well, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to tell him the way that I do it, and then you can tell him the way that your boy, the Colicinator, taught
He
you
never
to do
taught
it.
me anything. I've never met the man.
Really?
No,
Not one time.
not one time.
Never.
Not that I can recall.
Seems okay.
Sarah seems great.
Yeah.
It's a nice guy.
More power to him. I'm just saying, I remember when Kraft opened and he was pickling mustard seeds, and everybody's mind just went.
You know, I never went to Kraft.
It was great. It was
very
really
good.
great.
Still very good.
It's still really,
Yeah.
good.
Okay, here's the thing, right? Because I've met him once or twice. He's a good guy. Everyone loves Kraft. But I was always like, I hate making choices. You're taking me to a restaurant where literally I have to choose
I agree.
things.
And it sounded like hell in the kitchen, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, here's a bunch of stuff, and they're going to tell you how to cook it. I go, what?
What?
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it's like if I want to make all the choices, I'll go to the store, I'll buy my food, I'll
sure.
cook it.
Yeah.
That's choosing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, just fine. Choose for me, man.
Yeah.
And same at the bar. Like, I just like, just give me something that's delicious that you like.
Is that why you go? Like, take a few things out of your hands for once? You know what I mean? You do the cooking. What?
Yeah. All right. Every time I use mustard seed in a dressing or anything else, it's excessively bitter. Is there anything that can be done about that, or is it likely to be an issue with my source? Couple things, Monty. One, you might also find mustard seeds particularly bitter because, and my palate has changed. So I remember years cooked mustard seeds, and then all of a sudden one year I was like, oh, these are more bitter than they used to be. And then someone else next to me was like, no, they're the same. And I'm like, oh, I've changed. Weird. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. I've had the same thought. I think they got more bitter.
Yeah. But I think maybe it's just us. Anyway,
Yes.
First thing, Monty, are you blanching them in a couple changes of water? You got to blanch those suckers in a couple changes of water. And then what I like to do is I like to pressure cook the mustard seeds in vinegar. And pressure cooking the mustard seeds in vinegar knocks out some more of the pungency anyway. And then I stir sugar in afterwards. And then that's how I do it. 20 minutes at 15 PSI. What else? Do you have anything to add on?
Oh, no, I mean, I kind of do it the same way. I don't pressure cook them. I just cook them forever on low in a bunch of vinegar. But you have to blanch them several times, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then vinegar, and then stir in some sugar. And if you do it right, pressure cooker for 20 minutes, 15 PSI is all you need. And then they kind of pop like caviar.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
When you get it right.
So I used to do it we used to do it like when I was at the French Culinary Institute all the time. So I developed a pressure cooker thing. I just did it constantly. Blah, blah, blah. And then one day, it's bitter.
Yeah.
So I just stopped doing it. I haven't done it in years.
Oh, I haven't either. I mean, maybe it's time to bring 2012 back. Bacon on everything again. And
Oh my God, remember that? Oh my God. 2012 had its moments.
Oh, it did.
Yeah. So Quinn, what else we got? What else we got on the questions there? Since I've printed the wrong list.
You have a question from Biscuit on there?
From Biscuit? No. What does Biscuit want to know?
Sounds delicious.
Biscuit.
Biffed it.
Oh, Biffed it. No, what do we got?
You mentioned to Carol and Schiff that you steam your fries and then double fry them. Why 2 fries? Wouldn't the steam and the first fry be enough?
No. Listen. One thing I think that I hate is anyone saying that there's a best way to do anything. There's like a million ways to do everything, and a lot of them can be like incredibly delicious. Like if you go to Belgium, right? They don't pre-blanch. They just do an oil blanch. They just do it at a lower temperature for a longer time.
Yeah.
Right. But if you go to Belgium, they have a really amazing fry setup. They have that counter with the kettle in it. And, they do very long, low first oil blanch. The problem is that, as an American there's making fries at home and there's making fries in a restaurant. And when you're making fries in a restaurant, like during service, you're not turning your fryer down. You're keeping your fryer at, probably 365 thereabouts the whole service, and you have to make everything cook at that temperature, right? And so, and even when you're pre-doing it, it's hard to get, whoever your prep person is to do a really long, low oil blanch on potatoes and get it exactly right every time, because this is not what they're trained to do. They're not Belgian. They don't breathe this stuff. You know what I mean? And so pre-steaming the problem with boiling, I used to boil it, is that they break up too much. They get too damaged. So if you have a big steamer or a combi oven, you can do rack after rack of them, and you can cook the hell out of them, and that's going to make it easier to do a shorter first fry and have an amazing crust texture. So it's all about what you're willing to learn to do on your own, and how repeatable you want it to be for someone who doesn't do it every time or isn't necessarily as skilled as you need them to be. And so for me, the easiest way to do it is steam fry, but it's not the only way. Wait, what do you think?
I do it what I have now learned to be called the Belgian way, which is a super low oil, poach essentially, and then just finish them off at the end.
Yeah, and that's what they do, and they make the best fries in the world. What's your gauge? What are you doing? 3/8, half? What size?
3/8.
Yeah. My favorite are half, but they're much harder to do well.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 3/8 gives you a little bit more flexibility.
It really does,
Yeah.
because a French fry is a fight between the crust and the center.
The struggle.
And it is. And if you are a master of it, you can do what you freaks would call a 12 millimeter fry, but like what we would call, I'm pointing back at John for those of you that can't see me. Although, are you a metric man, John?
Yeah, yes and no. I don't know.
conviction.
I learned more about the metric system growing up, but then going to college, I just kind of had to forget about it and start learning the imperial system, and I've just been confused ever since. Yeah,
Sorry, man.
It's all right.
Anyway, so like a 12 / half inch fry, when a half inch fry is perfect, it's
Right.
godly. You know what I mean?
No, that's too. Yeah.
But it's just
much.
not. It's too much.
Yeah.
And 3/8 fries are delicious.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And I love a 3/8. I can't wrap my head around the thin ones.
Yeah.
They're super easy to get good.
For
But I
sure.
don't like them.
I've never been a fan. I don't get it. No.
No.
No. Wasting my time.
Yeah. So, and what do you? We got 2 minutes. So here's the question.
Yeah.
So I've never actually asked someone. This before.
Oh, good.
So, burgers are a higher margin item, right?
Yeah.
Okay. However, you charge a lot less for them.
Says who?
Well, I looked at your menu.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They
We
cost
do,
a lot
yeah.
less. Like
Well-
your steak frite is a
Yeah.
lot more than the burger.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot more for you.
Sure.
Are you happy when someone orders the burger or unhappy?
Absolutely.
Really?
Burger's great. I mean, whatever. Wouldn't put anything on there that I didn't like. That burger means a lot to me. It's very special.
Yeah.
I'm very
Well,
happy
talk
with it.
to me about the burger then.
Well, it's you have 2 4-ounce patties, and it's just sort of seasoned simply, seasoned on one side, seared on the flat top, American cheese, a little bit of sauce,
I like
whatever.
American cheese.
We get a beautiful bun from these people called Native Bread out in Bushwick, and lettuce, tomato.
What kind of bun are they making?
It's a potato bun. They call it the Martin's Killer.
Oh yeah, so
I like
it's
that.
it's
Yeah. Another political stance
without
by
the
me.
without the
Yeah.
political
Right, exactly.
So, but let me ask you a quiz. Does it have the same hyper fast browning that the Martins did?
No, it's not similar to a Martin's roll in any way, except that it's a potato bun. It's not soft and squishy. It's not all the stuff that you love and I love about that bun, but it is something that I felt was an important.
So what are you getting out of the potato if it's not this soft? Is it just not stale as fast? Are they using potato or are they using like mashed potato or potato flour in it?
I
Do you
think
know?
potato flour.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though.
Big difference between potato starch and potato flour. I like potato flour in my Parker House rolls.
Oh, that's interesting. I like
love
that.
Parker House rolls.
Me too.
You know what Wiley's putting his sliders on? The savory Hawaiian buns.
Nice.
It's nice. Anyway, Homer, thanks for coming. I'm going to come over and see you in your restaurant. Come back
Thanks for having
anytime.
me.
Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, you know where to find me.
Yep, cooking issues.